Welcome once again to the Faith First podcast. We're so glad you found us. Whether you're a longtime patron or a first-time listener, we are so grateful you have found us here. This is episode number 146 on February 19th, 2026. My name is Pastor Craig Brown. I'll be your host today, and we are part of First Lutheran Church in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, a community of faith where we discover more together. On the podcast this week, Pastor Steve will stop by to talk about Ash Wednesday. We'll muse about the day that was, a fantastic celebration as we enter into our Lenten series, Conversations with Jesus. And Pastor Katie will be here to kind of unlock the scriptures for us for this upcoming weekend. And one of our favorite church members, Becky Cram, is here to pray with us as well. We're so grateful you're here. Let's go ahead and get things started and put our faith first. Trying to find out what's brewing, and we have a special guest, Pastor Steve.
Hello, how are you doing?
Well,
it's the day after Ash Wednesday.
We're recording this on Thursday, the day after Ash Wednesday, and it was a long day. You started with men's Bible study.
I've got a Bible study at
6:45,
and it was pretty much nonstop until evening.
Yeah, we got out here about 8 o'clock. We had a really nice, we'll talk about all this, the worship and mentors and using the new space. And it was 8 o'clock by the time we got out of here. It was a good day, but it was a long day.
It really was. My experience of Ash Wednesday, it felt more like Ash Wednesday before COVID. I mean, First Lutheran is maybe a little bit different. The three big services in the year, it's Christmas Eve, Easter, and Ash Wednesday.
Yeah. Palm Sunday's pretty big too.
Palm Sunday, yeah. But Ash Wednesday is it's a big one. I mean, there's a lot of people at noon, and I thought, okay, it's not going to be so many at 6:30, and it was a full house. I mean, I was putting ashes on. You know, it's like there's more. There's more.
They just keep coming.
They just keep coming. Do I have enough?
Yeah.
And my experience of Ash Wednesday is that for a number of people, they may not come on Christmas Eve. They may not come Easter, but they'll come on Ash Wednesday. I think it is a participation in receiving the ashes. It's different. There's something, as I say, it perhaps is the most honest service of the year, in which we wrestle with, in some ways, the true meaning of our, mortality, the frailty, the finitude of life, and there's no pretending. There's no, no prosperity gospel. It's just give it to me straight. And there's something meaningful about that for people.
No, you say that, you think about it, you don't have the supernaturalness of Easter, resurrection, or a virgin birth at Christmas. It's humanity, and we all can connect with that no matter what walk of life you're from.
Though I said in the sermon, so the phrase that we say on Ash Wednesday is, remember that you are dust, to dust you shall return, and we mark the cross on a forehead. But the cross is empty. So we mark ourselves with the resurrection. We mark ourselves with the forgiveness and grace of God in Jesus Christ made known to us in the cross. Mm-hmm. I made a comment, it was God's love letter to us, and it's marked on us. God's embrace for us, not because we got it figured out, not because we're so good, not because of anything, but that's just the very nature of God's love for us. He takes us, He made us so that we might delight in this life and delight in God, and He made us even with these limitations so that He might embrace us in His love. There's something profound about that service.
Megan Rowling from our office was saying it was the first Ash Wednesday we'd had that we didn't have a snowstorm in like 4 years.
I forgot about that. Yeah,
I did too.
We had I've got friends up in Minnesota, and all their Ash Wednesday services were canceled because they had a 6-7 inch snowstorm.
Oh, they got it.
Yeah,
okay.
They got it.
All right.
We had nice weather here.
Yeah, it's been beautiful. So I think that was part of it. And then, just to your point of seeing crowds we haven't seen pre-COVID, I was downstairs for the dinner, and sat down with our high school son, Hayden, and then another one of his high school friends comes over and sits down that usually isn't here on Wednesdays.
Oh.
And then another, and then another, and then
Wow.
his brother. And all of a sudden, we're just all these high school boys around the table. I'm like, one, how did I get caught in this?
Uh-huh.
My wife, Katie, comes over. I said, hey, you want to join us? She says, not a chance. So she sat with her friends.
Well, how special for you.
Well, yeah, it was. But just, I mean, how special for the church.
Yeah.
That we had these high schoolers here, and then Michael comes over and is palling around with them like he is. He's so great, and just I looked up and looked around the room, and it's just packed full of people.
The church being the church.
It was.
in the best kind of way.
So we had a great dinner. We had a great worship services, as you said, at noon. We had probably, I didn't see the numbers, probably 100, 150 people. It was
More towards the 150.
yeah. And as you said, I was ready for.
I was thinking about 230 or 200. Nice, but it was a lot.
Probably 400 people here on
Pretty close
on that, and not a single pew in the back anyway. They're always open in the front, but
Best seats in the house.
none in the back. And we had a full choir, adult choir. I went up and put ashes on them, and it just the whole thing was super meaningful. Not just because of the amount of people, but just like you said, it's the church being the church. We're finally feel like we can get together, and I'm sure there's more online. I haven't looked at the online numbers, but it was just a really, really good day. And I don't know, I was excited to be here. I was tired. I was tired of the whole thing.
Yeah, I really liked what the staff put together regarding the Lenten series on Conversations with Jesus, or Wednesday Echo Service is Chat Time with Jesus.
Oh, is that what we're doing?
Yeah, that's Chat Time with Jesus.
Oh, I like
I
it.
kind of like that.
Yeah.
But, we're Conversations with Jesus.
That works for GPT
Yeah.
chat, just having a small talk.
Conversations with Jesus. And I've enjoyed just kind of thinking a little bit more about these conversations. And, so the message on Ash Wednesday is, well, how do you have a conversation with God?
How do you get it started?
How do you even get it started? And we might think, well, what do I say? Is even listening? Am I just throwing words up into the sky? And I said, maybe the hardest thing is to actually believe that not only is God listening, but he's actually already talked to you. He's already said something. And he's already talking. And can we connect with that in terms of what he's said? And, talked about, the conversation begins here in the season of Lent with those words, remember that you are dust, and to dust you shall return, which I remember seeing, there was something on the internet or whatever, sort of kind of like, well, that's a negative way, God's, dissing humanity.
Yeah, you're just dust.
Yeah, and sort of as a put down. And so, why bother with the faith anyway if it's just going to be a big put down? And my point in that is actually to say, remember you are dust. There's something positive about that because it connects us with everything that God has made. It's because we are dust, we are of the earth, that, in the last few days when the sun is warm, we could just be outside and enjoy it. I mean, there's a way in which we can take it in and just simply appreciate this life that's been given to us. And there's something good about being dust. But then you say, well, to dust you shall return. It seems kind of, again, sort of this negative thing. But maybe there's an honesty and a truthfulness, and maybe that's why people showed up, because there's no game playing. We're not pretending. We're just being honest with ourselves and honest in life. And rather being overwhelmed by that, because what's put on our forehead is the sign of the cross, it means that God has joined us in this human life, in the birth of Jesus, in the life of Jesus, the incarnation of God, the infinite of God is now in this finite world that we live in.
He became dust.
Yes, he became dust. And he returned to dust. He was killed on the cross. But the cross is empty. It's because God's true word for us is not no, but a yes. A yes in the resurrection of Jesus, a yes in the forgiveness of God, God's ultimate yes for us. And God has already begun the conversation by saying yes, and in a way as full as can be found. And if we begin there, it's a whole different way in which we can kind of look at these conversations that are going to happen now in the season of Lent as we come across them. And the thing that I realize is that almost all of those conversations happen in a place of trauma, where we are asking big questions. I mean, at the end, we're going to be at the cemetery where Lazarus has been laid to rest. And wrestling with, where were you, God, and why is there death, and how do I,
Yeah.
where is there life? In a couple of weeks, we're going to meet Jesus is going to meet a woman at the well, and so there the trauma is one of being shamed and ostracized, set apart, and how do I experience God in that? There's going to be another one where a man who is blind, born blind, sort of like, who sinned? I mean, whose fault is it this guy is
Right.
blind? And
Is it
sort of
his or his parents?
Yeah, the trauma of guilt and of suffering, and there's a healing word, but also ultimately it leads towards having the eyes of faith. So each of these conversations, there's a human situation that I think that we can connect with. And then to say, well, how does that conversation play out?
What blows me away about all those is it's nothing about the medical situation. That's almost secondhand. So the woman at the well was thirsty, but it wasn't about water. As you said, it was about
living water.
Her inclusion.
Yeah.
What was the next one?
It's John 3 with Nicodemus at night, then
Okay.
4, the woman at the well, and then 9, the man born blind.
So the man born blind, it's about blindness, and he's restored his blindness, but really it wasn't about sight. It was about
the sight of
the
faith.
sin.
Yeah, not only that, but then what does it mean to see with the eyes of faith?
Right. And all the way to Lazarus when he's dead, and it's not about death or even resurrection. It's about, I am the resurrection, the life.
Yes.
The Messiah is among you, and
Yep.
God's proclamation in that. So all these stories, while Jesus provides some physical healing or kind of medical restoration, it's not about that. It's about so much more deeper.
In our pew at church, we have a Bible, and you can pull out the Bible and you look at the book of Matthew. And as you work through Matthew, at the very beginning of Matthew, it's a lot of red letters. Jesus is teaching the Sermon on the Mount. There's all kinds of teachings, healings. And then as you get to the last week, there's actually, he's in the court in Matthew 25. There's still a lot of teaching. But when you get to Monday, Thursday, and Good Friday, it's all black. He has very few words to say.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, everybody else starts doing talking. Everybody else, there's all kinds of talk by the disciples or Pilate or the Pharisees. We're doing the talking to somehow get rid of. And the more we talk, the less Jesus talks, until finally he says nothing more. And how is the conversation going to start up again? And I'm going to do the Gospel of John for Easter because it is something about how God starts the conversation in our life. And Mary is there at the tomb weeping. He has nothing more to say. And Jesus comes to her, and when he speaks to her, he doesn't prove that there's no proof, he just says one word. And that one word is her name, Mary. And I think maybe that is the one word we need to hear, is God speak our name, and speak it in a way in which we feel the welcome and the warmth and the life of God that can allow us to start the conversation all over again.
Dale Carnegie says that's the sweetest word that anyone can hear is their own name.
Their own name.
Yeah.
And it's right there.
Yeah.
So I'm really looking forward to hearing each of us have our take on the conversation that we will have. We've started it. Now the conversation has begun, and looking forward to listen to all the ways in which that conversation happens, because each of us want to be in conversation with God, and more than that, I think we all desperately want to hear from God.
I also think it works on a logistical sense, conversations with Jesus, and we're having all these Bible studies. So there's a drop-in study at 10 a.m.
Yes.
with you on Sundays, so come downstairs. Former side of the donut holes. They're upstairs. You have to get them upstairs, then come downstairs. But come down to the Lutheran Fellowship Center with Pastor Steve. We also have groups during the week that are starting up. Mm-hmm. If you want to be a part of those, you can let us know, and we'll get you into one of those. But all these conversations with Jesus are also happening around these conversations with Jesus. Kind of fun.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Me too. Thanks for being with us today, Pastor Steve.
You're welcome.
I'm going to try something that I haven't done before, and that is with this podcast. Much like what Pastor Craig can do, just speak off top of my head as I'm processing and give you a little insight to what's going to happen, or what I hope to just bring about in our time of sharing this weekend in the message. I just want to remind you that we have been blessed with a sermon series put together by Pastor Steve. There's a great study guide. It's very accessible. It's online, and it's also going to be provided in paper in the narthex. But to follow along, there's questions, there's discussion questions, there's pieces for every member of the family, and there's prayer. And it's just an opportunity for you to get into the practice of discerning your relationship with God and what that looks like at home. He's entitled this Conversations with Jesus. And part of that is he's talking about the ways that God speaks to us. Last night at Ash Wednesday, he talked about, how we are part of creation. And as part of creation, all of us are dust, and to dust we shall return. Today I've had an opportunity to stay home with all my fur children. I have a big, huge dog, a little dog, and 2 cats. And I'm home because my biggest dog, my love, my fur child, is seeing the last days of his life, his earthly life. And we celebrate that he has given us almost 15 years of leadership in our household, that he has defended our home. At 135 pounds, he has been precious to us. But it is time. To dust, he is part of creation, and to dust he shall return. And although my heart is broken, I am just so pleased to know that this is God's promise, even for fur children, right? So, having said that, what I've been also mindful of is that the other fur children in my house don't know what to do with me today. And they are angry, and I swear they've been testing me all day long. I just want to yell out, I'm done with the children phase, right, in my house. And yet here are all these animals just overwhelming me with tests. In fact, my cat just came up to me. Now, I would say beloved, but my cat just came up to me and just got my attention by giving me a good bite on my finger. This is all because I'm being tested. I'm being tested to remind myself, that's right. I love them. In the scripture for this weekend, we hear that Jesus is tempted, or you could say that Jesus is tested. And it's because that's how we title this message. But Pastor Steve put a new twist on that. He puts on the twist that it says, what about conversations that lead us away from God? Jesus is tested? Well, no. The devil tests Jesus. Different way of looking at this. Here, let me do it this way. Today, I had comfort food in the house, and so it's a huge bag of chocolate peanut M&Ms, okay? I mean the big bag, and I love any variety of M&Ms in the classics. And I sat down with it, and pretty soon the bag got empty. And this is the big bag, right? And I'm feeling pretty much like garbage right now because that's just too much for me. But in my feeling like crummy, did it stop me? No, just kept eating one after another. I knew better. Then the moment of truth, right? In my knowing better, I looked at how many servings were intended for this bag, and it said, I think 8 to 10. And I downed them pretty much in one. And I feel like garbage. There's consequences. I feel like garbage. Getting back to creation. God has given creation this opportunity to say, you know what? You don't get it right. But you know what? I'm going to claim all of creation because it's my own. All of creation, not because we deserve it or that we've earned it, but that it is abundantly, it is extraordinarily, extravagantly promised to us. That's what we give our hope to. Does the devil test Jesus? No, but there are things in life that turn us away from what we already know is right and wrong. Jesus does not respond to and engage in or debate with the devil, but simply responds with godly responses because Jesus is fully human, fully God. Jesus responds, and in doing so gives us the truth too, that we are children of God, made out of creation, made to be loved, made to love one another. And God says, so now, have conversations that draw us closer to God. Let the devil have those conversations that draw us away. But when we are drawn closer to God, We see the holiness, the preciousness in all of creation. However you hear this message today, I know I needed to hear it. I know God is with us. How do I know? In the eyes of someone who's closer to the end than I am. Beautiful eyes of hope. So there, poof, poof, sorry. You get to see me or hear my voice and know that I just am so grateful for this time of love. Enjoy.
Hi, this is First Lutheran member Becky Cram, and I invite you to join me in a time of prayer for each other, for our community, and our world. Let us pray. God of grace, grant faith to your church. Give to all the baptized the will to resist temptation and to worship and serve you alone. God of all creation, tend this earth. When human greed and disobedience threaten this planet and the life it contains, lead us by your Spirit into ways of reverence, awe, and gentleness. God of all nations, preserve us from trouble. Surround all living in places of violence with your steadfast love and give resilience to all who work for peace. Grant courage to those who challenge, especially around issues of racism and systemic oppression. God of all healing, mend our wounds. Bring wholeness to all who are sick. Give peace to all who groan in grief. And send companions to all who are lonely or isolated. God of all people, provide for our community. For any among us who hunger for bread, bring nourishment. For any among us who hunger for truth, speak your life-giving word. God of all life, bring us to you. We thank you for your free and abounding grace, and for those who by that same grace now rest eternally in you. Receive our prayers, O God, through Jesus Christ, our strength and salvation. Amen.
Well, thank you, Becky, for those prayers. Thank you, Pastor Katie, for making some time for us today, and Pastor Steve for talking about Ash Wednesday. Went back and looked at the numbers, our count from the ushers. Over 500 people here, 550 people for worship for Ash Wednesday, both of our services, a good 128 at the noon service and over 300 at our evening service, more online. So thank you for joining in for that celebration, whether you worship with us online or on site. We're so grateful to have you all here, and just look forward to this coming weeks as we go through the Lenten season and we have our conversations with Jesus. We'll look forward to talking with you more about that next week. Until then, stay warm and stay safe. And as you head out into your daily lives this week, remember Jesus goes with you. So put your faith first.